Rebecca Sears, the enigmatic figure at the heart of the village's unease, had her own purpose hidden behind her sharp gaze and quiet demeanor. She was not merely a recluse, as the villagers assumed, but a woman on a deliberate quest to find something lost, something precious, stolen from her long ago. Her garden, with its wild and untamed flora, was not an act of neglect but of intention. Each plant served a purpose, part of an intricate ritual she was piecing together. Rebecca's late-night wanderings in the forest were not aimless. She sought fragments of an ancient knowledge, whispers of a power that could undo the wrongs of her past. Yet as her intentions grew clearer to herself, they became murkier to those around her, shrouded in the kind of mystery that breeds fear. Rebecca Sears had been the kind of woman who drew the eye. She wasn't beautiful in the conventional sense, but there was something about her sharp gaze, the way her dark hair seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, that commanded attention. She had arrived in the village 3 years prior, her origins a mystery she guarded fiercely. Some said she came from the city, fleeing a scandal. Others whispered of darker reasons, a curse, a tragedy, something unspeakable. Her cottage stood on the edge of the forest, a small structure with a sagging roof and a garden that seemed to thrive in wild defiance of the orderly rows cultivated by her neighbors. She rarely spoke to anyone, but when she did, her words carried weight. Children dared each other to approach her garden gate, while their parents crossed themselves when they caught sight of her shadow on the curtains. Yet for all her strangeness, Rebecca Sears had never given anyone reason to fear her. Until the murders began, it was the children who vanished first. 2 boys, no more than 10 years old, disappeared on their way home from the market. Their absence was discovered when their mother's calls echoed unanswered through the twilight streets. A search party scoured the village and the surrounding forest, but the boys were gone, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. Days later, their bodies were found at the base of an ancient oak deep within the woods. They were arranged in grotesque tableaux, their limbs bent at unnatural angles, their faces frozen in expressions of sheer terror. The villagers were gripped by panic. Rumors spread like wildfire, each more lurid than the last. Some spoke of a wild beast that had come down from the mountains. Others whispered of a ghost, the restless spirit of a long-dead child seeking vengeance. But it was Rebecca Sears who bore the brunt of their suspicion. Hadn't she been seen wandering the forest late at night? Wasn't her garden filled with strange plants that no one else could name? The whispers grew into accusations, and accusations soon turned to action. One evening, a mob gathered outside her cottage. Armed with torches and sharpened farm tools, they called for her to come out. When she refused, they broke down the door. But the scene they found inside only deepened the mystery. The cottage was empty, save for a single chair overturned in the center of the room. On the floor lay a series of muddy footprints, too large to belong to Rebecca, leading from the doorway to the edge of the forest. The villagers followed the trail, their torches casting flickering light on the damp ground, but it vanished as abruptly as it had appeared. Days turned into weeks, and the murders continued. A young woman was found by the river, her throat slit and her eyes wide open, as if she had seen her killer and couldn't look away. An elderly man was discovered in his barn, his body crushed as if by some inhuman force. Each death seemed more brutal than the last, and with every corpse, the villagers' terror deepened. The forest, once a source of life and livelihood, became a place of dread. No one dared venture into its depths after dark. Then came the night. The footprints returned. A heavy rain had soaked the ground, leaving the streets thick with mud. In the morning, the villagers awoke to find a trail of footprints winding through the village. They were massive, larger than any humans, and their edges were sharp, as if claws had sunk into the earth with each step. The trail led from the edge of the forest to the village square, where it circled the well before heading back into the trees. No one could explain how the prints had appeared without anyone hearing or seeing their maker. Desperation drove the villagers to seek outside help. A priest was summoned from a neighboring town, a grim-faced man who carried a silver cross and a book of ancient rites. He declared the murders the work of a demon and began preparations for an exorcism. The village held its breath as he stood in the square, chanting in a language no one understood. But as the final words left his lips, a scream tore through the night. The villagers rushed toward the sound, their lanterns casting frantic shadows, only to find the priest's body slumped against the well. His face was contorted in agony, his hands clutching his throat as if trying to claw something unseen from his neck. It was then that they knew. Whatever haunted them was beyond their power to fight. Fear turned to despair, and despair to resignation. Some packed their belongings and left, abandoning their homes to the encroaching wilderness. Those who remained barricaded their doors and prayed for dawn, though they knew it brought no promise of safety. The forest seemed to grow closer with each passing day, its dark canopy reaching out like grasping fingers. Rebecca Sears was forgotten in the chaos, her name spoken only in hushed tones by those who dared to remember. But one night, months after her disappearance, a figure was seen standing at the edge of the forest. A group of hunters returning late from a futile expedition spotted her silhouette against the moonlit trees. They called out to her, but she didn't respond. When they approached, she turned and walked deeper into the woods, her movements unnaturally fluid, like a shadow slipping through the undergrowth. They did not follow. The village's decline was inevitable. One by one, its remaining inhabitants succumbed to the weight of their fear, either fleeing or falling victim to the unseen force that ruled their lives. The forest reclaimed the land, its roots cracking the cobblestones and its vines creeping up the walls of abandoned houses. The well in the square, once a source of life, became a gaping maw, its depth swallowing the light. Years later, travelers passing through the area told tales of the lost village. They spoke of ghostly figures glimpsed among the ruins, of disembodied whispers that seemed to echo from the trees. And always, they mentioned the footprints, those impossible tracks that appeared without warning, tracing paths that led nowhere and everywhere. Rebecca Sears' story became legend, her name entwined with the darkness that consumed the village. Some said she had been a witch, her powers unleashed upon the world by the villagers' cruelty. Others claimed she had been an innocent, sacrificed to a force she could neither summon nor control. But the truth remained elusive, a shadow that slipped through the cracks of memory. Even now, on certain nights, when the wind howls through the trees and the moon casts its cold light on the earth, the footprints return. They are a reminder of the terror that once walked among the living, a testament to the darkness that lingers just beyond the edge of understanding. And those who see them know one thing above all else. The forest keeps its secrets, and some paths are better left untrodden,